big event in Tampa Bay, and we do big events well here, I think, with Rob Higgins and all the folks there. This one at Amalie Arena, and it's the women's Final Four. You know, Steve, I'm nothing if not versatile, man. I can go from the NFL to college women's basketball. I don't know. I guess I was pinch hitting, to say the least, but it's been a fun year for me because my daughter Natasha has been really kind of into women's basketball, and of course, the background of that is that a couple of her friends, the Coble twins at Steinbrenner, were fantastic shooting guards that led their team to the state tournament this year. And so we did a lot of basketball, both in high school, watched a lot of games, college games, and TikTok has, for young girls, has made this sport like so publicized on social media. They all have fun with it. Every team, and I would say in a tasteful way. There's nothing that's been, demeaning or anything like that. I know some people on social media look at that and just kind of go, "Whoa, I wouldn't put that out there for consumption," but not in terms of these programs, especially UConn. But I have to tell you, raising two young women and just being around athletes my whole life, when you go there to the women's Final Four, and these are the elite of the elite programs. It's mostly chalk, if you will, this time of year. And they've got, four of the top teams. I guess the only exception would have been if USC, hadn't lost their superstar. They may have they did give UConn a run for their money, but may have actually perhaps won. But nonetheless, this is the cream of the crop. And when you're around these young women and their coaches, like, I got to be honest, I've been around athletes my whole life, and these, some of these folks, Paige Beckers may end up in the Basketball Hall of Fame one day, like her contemporaries before her from UConn. But man, it's an impressive bunch of athletes. And not, their athletic ability is on display, every night. And these kids have played, upwards of 35, 36, 37 games. I think somebody said they'd had, gosh, I don't know how many practices. It was in the hundreds. But when you hear them speak, and, just the humility that they have, that not necessarily many athletes in their position would, at least the ones I've covered. And, the genuine sort of respect that they show and admiration for their coaches. That's a women's college basketball in general, and you could say college football too, is such a coach league, right? But we can name the great coaches in college football. And, in the NFL, there's obviously some strong coaches in Andy Reid and, going back to Don Shula and Bill Belichick and stuff. Usually they were accompanied by a quarterback. But college basketball, particularly women's college basketball, you think of Gino Ariama, and he's impressive in and of himself. But I got to tell you, man, I was kind of been around athletes my whole life. Had a couple sisters, got a couple of daughters now. And the thing is, the women's game has been elevated so much, and not just the last couple years, but the style of play, the level of play, the shooting percentages, just the speed of the game, like everything is, I think has really risen, and a lot of the popularity, obviously with Caitlin Clark and all that, that was a big part of it. So I think it's in our focus now more. But I'm actually looking forward to these games. I'm looking forward to seeing who's going to be crowned. I think it's going to be UConn. I think they're the favorites because of their superstar player. And let's face it, they've had a lot of those. Certainly in at UConn over the years. Paige Beckers, she came back after a torn ACL for her fifth year to get the one piece that she doesn't have, and that's a national championship. And this is kind of a question a lot of times about all athletes. Are you elite in terms of the other Hall of Famers that that have preceded her? Like, are you elite unless you win the Natty, unless you win it all?
It's a good question. And in college, I think it's a little easier to be elite without winning it in college because you're only there for 4, 5, 6 years now, whatever. During COVID times, they added the extra year there, but it's hard. When one team wins the Natty and you're only there 4 years,
Yeah.
like that's not easy.
Right.
Do we still consider Dan Marino elite?
Yeah, but is he in the same? You're right. Is he in the same
Right.
place as Tom Brady?
Well, no one's in the same place as Tom Brady,
Or
but you put him up there with
Terry Bradshaw, or
Joe Montana,
Montana. Yeah.
Many people will say
Patrick
he was a better
Mahomes.
quarterback than all them, but he never won.
Well, Patrick Mahomes is going to be considered a better quarterback than Dan Marino before it's over, if not already. So when you have the Maya, and this is the same program, when you have the Maya Moores and the Rebecca Lobos and Sue Bird and Brianna Stewart and Diana Taurasi, what did they all do? They all won national titles.
They did, but they also won it at a time when women's college basketball wasn't nearly as good as it is now.
It was them in Tennessee.
Yeah, basically. It was Pat Summitt and Gino Auriemma.
Right.
Going back and forth. That was pretty much women's college basketball.
And everybody every year would say, and Gino said this today, he goes, it used to be every year it'd say anybody but Tennessee or UConn.
Yep.
Like we want anybody but those two teams.
It was kind of that way with Nick Saban and Alabama.
It was. Absolutely it was. Absolutely it was.
But yeah, those girls won titles and they were tremendous and awesome, but there wasn't nearly the competition there is today.
No, agreed.
The women's game has grown, and it's grown quickly, and the style and the product of play is fantastic.
It's really elevated.
And that's what yes, Caitlin Clark was a big part of why women's basketball is where it is today, but she's not the only reason. It's whether it's Angel Reese or some of the other girls there, and Kim Mulkey coaching at LSU, and Dawn Staley at South Carolina, and
right.
It's the women's game is going to keep growing.
I agree.
It's a good product, and the girls are getting better.
They're getting great, and it's a really good product, and more are playing and looking up to them, and I think these have been tremendous role models, and we're right in the biggest growth spurt really for women's sports, but particularly for women's basketball. And these are like the best ambassadors you could have. Like I said, these people, they've done everything right. It is fun to watch. I enjoy the game. I know they don't play above the rim very much, but I'm fine with that. Like the ability to shoot, to run and shoot, the passing, the defense, like they get after it. Just the compete level. I'd love to see, athletes compete. And I think these women play as hard as any athletes you'll find. And this is it's a good Final Four. It's the best, obviously. You have some good stories. Texas hasn't been here in forever, right? They went back and forth with South Carolina all year. They're going to meet again for the fourth time this year. And South Carolina lost the first one and won the last two, including the SEC championship game. Those two teams are kind of similar in that they grind it out. They're both defensive teams predominantly. I think that's what Don Staley's teams are known for, and certainly that's what Texas has been known for of late. UCLA with their size, like they have not been here before in a very, very, very long time, if at all. So they're a good story. So there's just really competitive teams, and I think any of them could win. I think UConn's favored. It's funny because USC was undefeated. South Carolina was undefeated rather last year. The other USC was undefeated last year, won the national championship, and they're not really like being talked about this year, even though they're here. They're kind of an underdog in the field, if you will, somewhat, and which is somewhat surprising. I think they'll get by Texas. I know Texas did beat them earlier, but I think they'll get to the championship. But what Don Staley has done with a completely new group and a new style of play, and they come up, they play 10 people, and they come at you in waves, and it's really remarkable. But they got a chance to go back to back, and that hasn't happened since UConn won 4 in a row. Starting like around 2019, 18, somewhere in there. So they're trying to make history for themselves. So it should be a fun night at Amalie Arena tonight, and then of course the finals just a couple days later. So I'm looking forward to that. Even though I am a fish out of water, I'm a little bit out of my element here. I got to be honest. I think I loved covering college sports when I did it, many years ago at the University of Florida. Which, by the way, the men's Final Four is coming up too. You got the Gators in San Antonio. That's going to be exciting. I still got Gators in Duke. Ariama said something today that kind of resonated with me because they're talking about revenue sharing in women's college basketball. Of course, they're talking about revenue sharing in a lot of college sports right now. Particularly thinking about having what amounts to sort of a salary cap, if you will, for NIL or for paying players or whatever. What is it? Thinking $20-something million or whatever that turns out to be. But Gino said something that I thought was interesting, because we were talking about how it was always, hey, anybody but UConn or Tennessee. And now, at least currently with NIL, but currently in college basketball, there's the possibility of other teams making it to the Final Four, and but if they have this salary cap, what Gino said, he believed that, players are going to follow the money, and a revenue sharing, not salary cap, but revenue sharing. And he just believed that, there's no one really checking these things, right? And you're supposed to somehow square off the NIL with the revenue share and all this stuff. He thinks it's going to hurt the college game for women because he thinks, only the rich will survive, and they'll just be able to pay more for the player that's going to get in the portal and come to them, and so you'll have fewer teams.
Isn't that kind of what we're seeing in the men's game right now?
He quoted the men's game. He said
everything went chalk,
and he also said, he goes, look at college football. Mm-hmm. He said you can pretty much, Alabama, some of the same suspects.
Alabama,
Michigan,
Georgia, Ohio State. You start with those three every year, and then you kind of add on.
And he says, and that's what college football is today. He goes, that's what we will be. He doesn't like this notion of only the rich will survive, and they're one of the rich, obviously, because of their established history. But even so, right now he thinks the game's in a good place because a team like Texas, right, can make it there. TCU had an outside chance. They lost in the Elite Eight, but
they had the transfer Haley Van Lith, who made the Final Four the last 2 years with two different teams.
That's right, with LSU and I forget the first one, but so he likes where the game is at and thinks that they're only going to hurt it, which is disappointing to hear. But look, talking to the Texas coach, he goes, we're having a good time here. He goes, but every time we come back to the hotel, these girls are getting, they go to their room and there's more stuff. It's jackets, it's shoes, it's all this stuff. And he goes, they think it's Christmas, but it's great that they're able to wear it and take advantage of it. And they are the entertainment. They should get paid too. I've always believed that. It's just no one knows how to manage it. And, even these women's basketball teams, like talking to Don Staley, they're going to need a general manager. I don't know what they'll call it, that or not, but it's only so much she can do. Like right now, they're in the transfer portal for college basketball. And then you got teams at the Final Four that are, answering calls from prospective people that want to come to their programs. So the timing is bad as it is in college football, but they're going to need people to manage the money. That's the thing, is that, and Dawn said, she goes, we should have our own contract separate from men's contracts, just like have our own station, basically our own network, for women's college basketball. So she's thinking, ahead and outside the box and all of that. But looking forward to it, man. It's going to be a big night. Amalie looks great, with all the signage, and Tampa knows how to host big events, man. And that's why Raymond James needs to get fixed up, because one of the best things I've ever seen, I went to it, was the college football national championship game. That was tremendous.
That's coming back in 29.
Yeah, that they got to get some things done in that building before it comes back. I mean, they got the game, obviously, but
part of the deal was there's some renovations they have to do.
That's right.
Before that game, that's part of the contract and the.
Yeah, that's right.
And the Bucks are going to want upgrades, as we've detailed and you wrote about.
Yeah. Nope. They've got their plans. They just haven't really shared them with anybody specifically yet. And we got questions about that. We got some mailbag questions coming up we can hit on this Friday, and as well as Tampa Bay Lightning still have not clinched. The Rays are on their
No, but
first.
their magic number is now 1.
It's just one, yeah.
Well, and it's even less than that, so to speak. So the Rangers are the team that they need to eliminate. They could also eliminate Montreal, but the Rangers are the team that the magic number is 1. The Rangers, if they win out, can tie the Lightning if the Lightning score no more points the rest of the season.
Wow.
But if the Rangers win one game, not in regulation, if they win in overtime or a shootout, they can't catch the Lightning anymore.
Ha!
Because the first tiebreaker is regulation wins.
Oh.
And if one more game that they have does not end in a regulation win, they cannot catch the Lightning anymore in regulation wins and win that tiebreaker.
Wow, that's a slippery slope. Wow.
Yeah. So in order for the Lightning not to make the playoffs, it means the Rangers have to win out and win every game in regulation, and the Lightning would have to lose every game, not in overtime or shootout.
Mm.
And even if that happens, if Montreal drops one game, loses in regulation, then the Lightning are in anyway. So, I mean, that's how they're essentially in. But technically, mathematically, so you're telling me there's a chance.
Yeah, until you get that check mark or the X or whatever they put on the standings these days, you're not quite there yet. But they're as close as they can be.
Lightning played well in Ottawa. I mean, outshot Ottawa big time. Let up a power play goal and one other. I mean, you only give up 2 goals.
Yeah.
As John Cooper said after the game, and he said many times, if you allow 2 or less, you got a pretty good chance to win. We just scored 1 tonight.
Yeah, and I thought Ottawa's goaltender played really well. He made some nice saves.
Linus Allmark was fantastic. Yes.
Yeah, I mean he pretty much stole that game in a sense, but they at least should have gotten a point out of it. I thought, but
they played well enough to earn points, and if they keep playing like that, like I said,
they're
no
fine.
problem. Yeah,
they'll be fine.
Now the only thing is now they're 3 points behind Toronto with a game in hand.
Yeah,
but they no longer control their destiny to win the division. Because they do play Toronto once, but they're 3 points back.
But they're 3 points back. They're nearly a little bit of help.
No games in hand. They're 3 points back without a game in hand. So if they win the game against Toronto, now they're 1 point back. So at some point, Toronto's got to. If Toronto wins out, they will win the Atlantic Division. And then
Florida and Tampa Bay would play in the first round, right?
Correct. If Toronto finishes first, yes.
That's the one thing, man. I'm telling you. I think it's the only thing that could doom the Lightning is a first-round matchup with Florida. Not that they couldn't win, but I think seeing another team and getting going and just winning a series, then if you had to play Florida down the road, I just think you got a lot more momentum. They just can't get past them.
There is a chance Ottawa could slide into number 3 or 2, but it's slim, but it's still possible.
Yeah.
But basically, Toronto, Florida, Tampa Bay, and Ottawa are going to play each other in the first round. It's going to be 2 of those teams are going to play, and the other 2 will play.
Got it.
And then the winners of those series will play each other. That's pretty much how it's going to go, barring a collapse by Ottawa to fall out of the first wild card and go to the second wild card.
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing is just to get there healthy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, don't lose any key players between now and the end of the season. Yep. Because that can derail you, obviously, with some of the stars they have.
And Kucherov's 9-game point streak snapped, and Nathan McKinnon had 3 points for the Avalanche, so he's now 3 points ahead of Kuch in the scoring race.
Oh, jeez.
But Kuch has an extra game to play still. Colorado's played 77 games. Tampa Bay's played 75. Actually, Kuch has 2 extra games to play still. So,
but I don't, those
and
betting
he's played
lines,
less games this year.
With the betting lines, you don't see him, in the top couple, 1 or 2 for MVPs right now.
No, I mean, pretty much McKinnon's pretty much the hands-on for MVP, unless some are going to say Connor Hellebuck, the goalie at Winnipeg, which he's having a phenomenal season. And he probably deserves the Vezina Trophy.
I was going to say, they have an award for that.
But everybody says he's a runaway shoe-in, no question about the Vezina. Have you seen Andre Vasilevsky?
Yeah, I mean, 6 shutouts or 7, whatever it is.
He's second in wins, second in save percentage, second in goals against average.
Okay, who's first?
Well, Hellebuck is, but what I'm saying is Vazzy's not that far back from him. Like, he's still got a few games to go. It's not a runaway.
Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and who votes? Are they players? Are they fans?
I'm trying to remember who votes for the Vezina. I think it's media members. But And like Hellebuck probably deserves it, and he's a phenomenal goalie and has had a tremendous season. But 2
Well,
months ago he was pretty much crowned Vezina. Well, look at Vazzy since then. Like,
yeah, no, Vasi's had a typical Vasi year, and
Mhm.
he's won it before. I think it's just like anything else. People like new. You know what I mean? They like the shiny new object.
Well, I think that's why McKinnon beat Kucherov last year.
Oh, I do too. No question.
I mean,
No
you had
question.
4 guys last year. You had McKinnon, Kucherov, Matthews, and McDavid.
Yep.
McDavid got hurt late in the year and missed some of the last few games and at that point, dropped out from the Hart race, which is the trophy for the MVP. Austin Matthews was at 69 goals. Had he hit 70 in that last game against Tampa Bay,
He might have won it.
he might have won the MVP. So then it became down to McKinnon and Kucherov got that 100th assist in the last game. The first time ever a winger's hit 100 assists.
Well, McKinnon hadn't won one.
Right. And Kuch had the scoring title by, I think, 5 or 6 points over McKinnon. Maybe it was 4, something like that. But yeah, McKinnon hadn't won before. So it's his time, they'll say.
It's his time. It's new. Yeah, he's this is his.
I'm not taking anything. McKinnon had a phenomenal season last year. And to be honest, all 4 of those guys had MVP seasons. If you put those seasons in a different year.
You couldn't have picked a bad selection of those.
If you put any of those 4 guys last year and put them in this year's race or the year before, like, they're MVP. Any of those. It just 4 of them had a tremendous year at the same time.
That's right.
But what Cooch did as a winger, when you could say the only one ever on so many things Cooch did, and he won the scoring title, he was the MVP last year.
Mm-hmm.
But it was McKinnon's time.
Right.
He hadn't won it before.
Yeah, all those awards will be interesting. I don't know that you'll see either go to the Lightning, but really what matters to them is to get back in, running deep playoff runs. I mean, individual awards are great, but this is
well, and you talk about awards. We've talked about this too. John Cooper's never won.
That's stupid. That's stupid too. It's like
he's never finished in the top 2.
But see, and that's the Belichick, and even Belichick, I think, finally won one, but or maybe more. But that's the whole, well, he has the most talent. Well,
when they set the records 5 years ago 6 years ago, whatever it was, 62 wins and 120 points. Now Boston
eliminated
beat that,
four
Boston
straight
beat
in
that
Columbus.
2 years ago, but he didn't even finish second.
Yeah, it's stupid. And John will tell you, I'll just as soon lift the cup and they can have the coach of the years. But I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the other thing too is it's not always the easiest thing to manage talent. You know what I mean? When you have that kind of elite talent and you got to get guys to play unselfishly and, not be worried about their numbers and, how many goals they have or this, that, they play to win. That's not an easy thing. I'd much rather have talent than not have it, no question. But you still got to find a way to get people to buy in, And I think that's silly. It's silly that he hasn't won one yet, and I don't know, what it takes. I also think this. Maybe I'm wrong. When it comes to awards and things like that, I see this in the NFL and maybe in baseball. I don't know. The smaller market, like Tampa Bay, no matter what you want to say about them, everybody knows the Lightning and they've won Stanley Cups and all of that as a Sun Belt team. But I still think there's a market bias, man. I see it in football all the time when it comes to awards.
I don't think there is a market bias, yes. But I also think it's look, the people, whether it's media, whatever else, what teams do you see the most?
Philadelphia.
And the Lightning aren't on national TV all the time.
Chicago,
and so a lot of them are in New York.
Because
hockey,
TV is
Canada.
about eyeballs. TV is about eyeballs, right? Yeah. And this is not the biggest TV market. It's not small, but it's not the largest TV market. If I can put New Jersey or New York or, LA or one of those, teams, Chicago, Boston, I mean, that's who you're going to watch.
Mm-hmm. No question about it.
I mean,
I know the other night on ESPN, PK Subban couldn't say enough good things about Cooch and kept saying he's the MVP.
Oh, the players know. I mean, yeah, the players
Subban's
know.
a former player. He's an analyst on ESPN
I know.
now.
Oh, I know. And that's what I mean. Like, if you've gone up against this guy, you know how good he is. I would think if they did a players vote, he'd have a chance to win it every year. The other thing about him is, and we haven't seen this because he was injured last year and the last couple, playoffs, they've gone out fast, but there's not a better playoff goaltender. I promise you that.
Fazzy?
Yeah.
If look, Hellebuck's had a phenomenal season, and he's a great goalie, and you can't say enough good things about him. Except, what's he done in the playoffs?
Right. Wasn't
Now-
it a couple years ago? It was like that with Shesterkin of the Rangers.
No, and you still, I mean, he's won a couple series, but have you gotten him? Have you gotten him to the final?
No, I haven't seen you lip a cup yet. Yeah.
No, I mean, if there's one goalie in the NHL, if you and they've had polls like this, the Athletics done them and others
To win one game,
you need to go to one game. Vazzy gets over 50% of the vote,
no question,
and others get a vote here, like
Well,
the guy who's
look at
proven it, the guy who has shown in big game and closeout games.
How about his
great he is.
games? Yeah, his closeout in Game 7 records.
Yeah,
But
we had the 5 straight shutouts in game
in closeout games. Yeah,
closeout games.
Yeah, no, he's ice. He just steps up and takes games. He just takes series. He takes championships. He's all that. So yeah, the Lightning aren't gonna give him away. But yeah, they probably, I don't know whether it's market bias or not. I just feel that happens a lot in the NFL for different reasons, and probably happens in all pro sports.
There's probably a little bit too. There's the Tampa Bay Lightning players aren't the flashy players, and I don't mean on the ice. I mean off the ice.
Yeah, that's true.
And you see Austin Matthews in commercials all the time, and designer suits and this, and you just and anybody in Canada, it just helps. I mean, stars in Canada. Cooch and Vazzy don't talk to the media as much. Part of it's some of the language, and I mean, Vazzy's getting a lot more comfortable speaking in front of a camera, but still not 100% there. He will do it, and when he speaks, it's great. But it's just their person. If Cooch doesn't like it at all, that they don't. When you don't spend time doing that too, so you're not in the media as much. I mean, your highlights are, but there's something to be said for that too.
Mm-hmm.
When they don't see Cooch, you'll see Austin Matthews comments after games all the time, or Connor McDavid, or they'll talk to McKinnon or Cale Makar in Colorado.
Yeah,
take the big names. You hear from them all the time, not just what you see on the ice. And like some of it's language, some of it's some of it's just comfort level, some of it's just personality.
Right.
But that can impact people that aren't watching you every night. When you hear from Austin Matthews all the time, or name any of the other players, like that helps too. It helps in the biasness, in your mindset of who a player is, and as you recall back, going, who's the best this year.
Cooch would be a lot more liked if they just had more boat parades. That's really all it takes. I mean, is there a more entertaining and vociferous guy?
Yeah, I mean, Ovechkin's Stanley Cup tour was tremendous.
That was awesome. That was
the
epic.
night after the Cup. I mean, Cooch may have been the best.
Oh my God, it was tremendous. Speaking of Ovechkin, and we just did. I thought this was interesting. I was listening to Dan Patrick, and I guess this is everywhere. But so Ovechkin's like 3 goals away from Gretzky, I think.
2 from tying, 3 from passing,
3 from winning.
So a hat trick away from taking the title.
Right, which he's capable of doing in one game. So therefore, the NHL with I think Gary Bettman and now Wayne Gretzky, the great one, has committed
Dwayne
to
Gretzky.
Wayne Gretzky.
No, Dwayne Gretzky. If you've watched the Discover commercials,
is that what it is? Yeah, Dwayne Gretzky has committed in his own free time to now follow the Washington Capitals around for the remainder, or however long it takes for Ovechkin to tie and then pass him for the most goals, career goals. First of all, that's quite a commitment. Okay, because I don't know, but I'm sure Janet Jones is like, yeah, just go. How long are you gonna be gone? I have no idea. Could be a game. Could be till the end of the season.
There's less than 2 weeks left in the regular season. Washington has 7 games to play.
But I think he's going to be gone for he could potentially be gone for at least 10 days. So I don't know about you, but my wife's not just going to let me take off for 10 days. Anyway, he's the great one. I get it.
But he's also the great one, and his wife could go with him if he really wanted to.
She could if they, but I mean, it's Washington, Philadelphia. I mean, I don't know where they go, but it's like Long Island. I don't think she's probably seen enough hockey arenas. But anyway, but it's cool that he's doing it. And look, he's the face of hockey and the greatest ambassador the sport has and greatest player and all that. So there's some expectation that he would do it. But when you really think about the logistics of it, it's like, wow, that's quite a commitment. But if you know Wayne Gretzky, and I don't know him, but I've observed him from very closely, and even back, I don't know if he was done playing or not. And Dan Patrick told a similar story, but like the thing about Gretzky is, like that dude for the face of a sport, right? Like Tiger Woods is to golf, right? Um, you will not come across a more humble, accommodating guy who literally will sign every last autograph until nobody leaves without one. And it doesn't matter if he's at dinner or in the case, my case was uh, we were at the Super Bowl in Atlanta one year at the old Georgia Dome, and there was the biggest ice storm that the Atlanta's ever seen. And so everybody was basically landlocked. You couldn't go outside because if you stepped on the road, you're going to fall on your butt. It was bad. It was sheets of ice. And so everybody was kind of in this giant, hotel, which was the kind of the base of the Super Bowl and the media hotel and everything else. And Gretzky was there. Don't know why. Gretzky wanted to watch the Super Bowl. And he was there with Tom Arnold, of all people, back in the day, had some TV shows and
A
was married to
yeah.
Roseanne Barr and all that. But they were there, and every night they'd be down in the hotel lobby bar or whatever, and people would just line up. I mean, line up to talk and get Wayne Gretzky's autograph or a picture. Literally, the man did not refuse a single request. I watched him for hours because I had nowhere to go, and I talked to him as well eventually. And it's amazing just how polite and patient and understanding of where he is and what his responsibilities are. I mean, goes way above and beyond anybody else would in any other sport. So I'm not surprised when I heard that he was doing this and he will be like everywhere he goes, as much as the attention should be on Ovechkin, he's going to take a lot of the oxygen, but he will sign and he will take pictures. And I can't imagine just how many people are going to see and meet Wayne Gretzky over the next few days or week.
Phil Esposito tells a story when he was trying to get the Lightning here.
Yeah,
they held an exhibition game.
Yeah,
at the Thunderdome,
right,
or what would become known as the Thunderdome.
Yeah,
it was between. Gretzky was in L.A. at that time, I believe. Or no, maybe it was New York. He might have been. I don't remember which team it was.
But, Rangers or Kings, yeah.
Yeah, and playing the Penguins, and they brought an exhibition game here to show it could work and hockey and this.
Yeah,
and I guess Lemieux didn't play for Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
He was supposed to. He didn't, but Gretzky did. After the game, Phil asked Gretzky, "Hey, can you come out the outfield? We have some sponsors. We have some VIP
meet and greet."
He came out there, met everybody, shook everybody's hand.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
Pictures. And all along, before that game, after the game, told Phil, anything I can do to help you get this team here, let me know. That's just the guy Gretzky
and
is
meant it.
Was and is. And he meant every word of it. And
it's incredible. It really is when you think about the icon of any given sport, right? Mm-hmm. Tiger Woods, I think we would agree. Before that, it was Jack Nicklaus, but Tiger Woods. A little harder to identify maybe with baseball. There's some debate, but whoever pick up, Michael Jordan.
Yep.
Right. LeBron. Could you see LeBron or Michael Jordan having that kind of patience and they've done things for the game. I'm not suggesting they haven't.
Absolutely. But
yes. to be that level, right? The Jordans, the Tiger Woods, like for Gretzky, he is the most humble superstar, megastar you'll ever see.
Well, and Phil Esposito even said, look, without Gretzky, we probably don't have a team here. Like, he was a huge.
It was that important,
and
yeah.
And he wanted to play the exhibition game here, and he made sure he played, and then did everything he could while he was here to help, and was just trying to grow, engage, and see how things went. And, that was so big, And Phil, always, thanks Wayne for helping, and because without that, it may not have happened.
Yeah, and it's from the heart too. Like it's not an act. Like he genuinely knows his role, feels it's important, and does it with a smile on his face. I don't know how he does it, but he and Dan Patrick told the story. He was I forget what game he was at. It might have been a playoff game, and Gretzky went with somebody, and they were in the stands. And he tried to get him to come on the field where he would. He says the guy was like, from the time he arrived at the stadium until they left, was just lines of people, pictures and autographs, pictures. He did all of them. So it's not unique to my experience, but just to be around him was something. Okay, well we're getting over a little bit. We might have a question or two, but I want to remind you before we go to get down to International Plaza Mall. Go see our friends at Breitling Boutique. I mean, you want to talk about having a great timepiece on your wrist. The Breitling company has made the best Switch watch in the business for 140 something years. They've been at International Plaza for 5+ years. They got men's and women's watches. They're known for the Navitimers, the Chronomats, and the Chronomats. Right now, they've been celebrating the NFL's 104th year anniversary. All 32 teams have a limited edition of watches that are team watches with, the colors for the face of the watch, the team colors, the logo. They're absolutely beautiful. You can go on our website, tampabay.com, and probably see a picture of the Buccaneers team watch while supplies last. But also, men's and women's watches, like I mentioned, sports watches for women. These things are durable, and they have all the different colored wristbands. It's a terrific store, great customer service. You're going to love it. You're going to see some superstars in there as well. A few Buccaneers like to go over there from time to time. It's Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. When you go, make sure you let them know that you heard about it on Sports Day Tampa Bay. It's a busy weekend. Of course, I'll be at the Final Four, the women's Final Four. That one starts tonight, and it's going to be a couple of great matchups, I think. And for my money, I think UConn's probably going to make it to the championship game. I'd be surprised if they weren't there. And then you have South Carolina against Texas. That's a rematch. The fourth time those two teams have meet. I want to say it'll be South Carolina versus UConn. That would be my prediction for the final. We'll see how that goes. And the men's Final Four, Florida Gators, man, down in San Antonio. I like them against Duke. And I don't know who's going to win that game. I'm starting to lean towards Duke if they both make it, only because I think Duke has just across the board just such size. They're all like 6'8". They're bad matchups.
I'm going to stick with my pick from the beginning of the bracket.
Who'd you have?
Houston winning it all.
Houston, okay.
Yep.
From this conference, right? The USF's conference? Are they from the AAC? Is that what?
No, they're in the Big 12 now.
They're in the Big 12 now. Okay.
Yep.
Well, there you
Big
go.
12. Yep. But I had Houston over Michigan State in the final. Obviously, Michigan State lost in the Elite Eight, but
yeah, Izzo had a good year. So you got Houston. Okay. Well, it'd be quite the story if Florida can get this done. A tremendous story for them.
That Florida Auburn game is going to be spectacular.
Oh yeah, and
I think that's two really good teams.
Yeah, I mean Auburn's been number one throughout the year for the most part. Mm-hmm. Florida's been right there, the number one seed, and they've gotten better and better. Deep teams that play defense. They play everybody on the bench. It's really impressive to see them do it. So looking forward to a little college basketball this weekend. The Lightning, or are they in Buffalo?
They are, with a chance to clinch. Like we said, they need a win, and they would definitely be in.
Yeah.
Actually, even an overtime loss or shootout loss would put them in, or if the Rangers just don't win in regulation. So
yeah, the Rays are in Houston, so there's their first road trip before they come back to their new home at Steinbrenner Field. So yeah, lots going on this weekend. Hope you guys enjoy the podcast. We're here each Monday through Friday. Go see our friends again at Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. They're going to take care of you. You're going to get a timepiece like none before, and you're going to enjoy it. Thanks for listening. For Steve Versnick, I'm Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Have a great weekend, everybody.